And we're back. Erick and Chris, Miscellaneous and Brown. We
So
are back, and a lot happened this week. But I think we were talking in the pregame, and I think we need to stress and talk about this whole Project 20. Taraji P. Henson. If you were watching the BET Awards, she was like, "Y'all better wake up. Y'all better figure out about this Project 2025." So I want to figure out. I want to ask questions and find out. We can discuss and figure out what is Project 2025, and if it's something new or it's just a repackaged rebranding of the same old racist playbook that these rich white folk have been playing since the 80s, since Reagan, but since the beginning of this country, where they had, it was only white male landowners were able to vote, you know.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
this is the big thing that everybody in politics and pop culture is talking about is Project 2025. I'm also a little bit geeked to talk about the Kendrick pop out concert a little bit more, but also this Kendrick Lamar video has been. I've just been. That's all I've been really watching. That's why I don't really. I had to do my research on Project 2025 for this episode.
yeah.
So, and again, I'm rambling now, but here we go. Here, right here is Chris Mateo. He's back, the co-host with the most. What's up, Chris? How you feeling?
I'm good. Just I'm excited to learn more about this. I know we want to talk about Project 2025, Kendrick's video that came out, possibly in reference to your T-shirt. I couldn't find my Deadpool shirt to kind of balance this out, but we still got a couple of weeks before the movie comes out anyway.
I'm so
Um,
excited. I haven't bought my tickets yet, but that's because I'm broke. But that's
yeah,
another
same.
story.
Yeah, no, we can find it online or something. Let's find the let's find the pirated copy afterward.
No, I'm
But
not. No, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna support that movie. I want to give me every single penny of my money to support that
yeah,
movie.
I'll save some stuff for that for later on. But I did read some stuff that I'm excited for. I'm excited for it overall. But yeah, let's jump into this. I definitely want to know more about Project 2025. I know like the real basics, but you being the political scientist in our partnership here, I want to know more. Like, what is it? What are we looking at? And like,
Well, it's over 100 conservative organizations from every anyone you can think of and name, but it's also it's like them all Voltroning up because they're anticipating that Trump is going to be elected in 2025, because the whole premise of the whole thing is it's just a furtherance of the unitary executive and giving all power to the king. So if we're looking even at what the recent Supreme Court discussions that we've been the Supreme Court decisions that we've been discussing about, like Chevron, and how they've removed authority from expert authority from courts and given full authority to them, that full power grab of just their decision is their decision. um it it Project 2025 is already underway. The only thing that would solidify its full on let's go is Trump getting elected.
getting elected, yeah.
So for me, yes, educate yourself on what Project 2025 is, and we'll discuss a little bit more, because I got a list of all the things that.
What's that sound?
That was my dog.
Oh,
He's worried about Project 2025 as well. It
makes
freaked
sense.
me out a little bit too. I was like, what is that? Oh, and that's, sometimes they sleep and
Yeah.
they dream and
So
they moan.
so Project 2025, if you're saying this with your dog's reaction, is the equivalent to fireworks and earthquakes. So when those two things happen to dogs, they freak out and make sounds like that. So Project 2025 is basically a firework or an earthquake to our canine friends, and so that's why everybody should be worried.
I mean, and we've only been going 4 minutes, and I feel like if we had $1 for every time we said Project 2025, we probably could buy tickets to the Deadpool Wolverine movie.
There we go.
So
Yeah,
no, but at the end of the day, man, like, this is a thing that the conservative movement has done all throughout our history.
mhm.
The rich land owning it's a power grab, but it's also a wealth grab. It of course gives tax cuts to the wealthy. And it of course eliminates public education, and it of course goes after every public funded environmental program that helps the environment and restores the environment, and all the other things that I already know that in Florida, the Republicans have spoken out and they made their stance against legal marijuana and legal cannabis in their state. DeSantis, that's his stance. That's the Republican stance in Florida. So if they're already campaigning against it in their basically reddest of red states now, where that's a crazy thing that 2000 really, because for a long time they thought Florida was purple, but really I feel like it's been red since 2000.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever thought of it other than red. I think that's the.
Although, did Obama win Florida? I thought Obama won Florida once, which is what brought on Andrew Gillum. And I thought, because I thought, oh no, Andrew Gillum was running for, Andrew Gillum was running against DeSantis in his first thing, and then they did a hit job on him. And man, if you wanna, there is a story. There is a what's the word? A political thriller story in the Andrew Gillum story and all the stuff. If you guys follow the Native Land podcast, he's one of the hosts on that show, and he talks about when he ran for governor and they basically set him up. Had somebody put something in his drink. He woke up in the bed and he was set up for a whole bunch of crimes that he didn't commit, and he lost the governorship and scandal and almost lost his whole livelihood, his wife, his kids. I mean, they went after it all, and for him to be standing and fought against the federal government and won during the Trump administration is like I said, man, that is a political thriller that somebody needs to write that script and shoot that movie, because I would watch the shit out of that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the subject at hand, the Project 2025. I had a list of things that I wanted to read off, but at the end of the day, nobody wants me to read off a list. I mean, maybe I'll look at. Well, yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, Project 2025 is a furtherance of the premise of our government being led by a unitary executive, meaning an all-power president. You got to remember that even in the inception of the Constitution, there were people and parties that wanted a unitary executive, a king.
Yeah.
In most, an all-powerful person that can just decide whatever he wanted to do, because in societies, whether they be, that's why our democracy was so revolutionary at the time, was that most of the societies were run by kings and queens and people who would, decree from God or whoever else that this was what's supposed to happen. It was just their whims, as a dictator, or a king. And that's not how this is supposed to go. We the people, right? That's the first. Hold these truths to be so. It is just, even at the beginnings, though, like that was what the Civil War was about. In a lot of ways, yes, of course, the main issue was slavery, but the main issue was self-governance and the South wanting to do what they wanted to do versus what the federal government wanted to move towards, and that being all men are created equal. If all men are created equal, then black people can't be slaves, if that's the case. So, we move further towards that, but we're never, what is the word? A more perfect union, right? That's the phrase.
Yeah.
We always move towards a more perfect union, but we are not a perfect union and never have been. So to make America great again is almost an oxymoronic phrase. We've never been a great nation. We're striving towards greatness. That's what Reagan sold. America, it's morning in America, right? We're we got a fresh start with this new way of doing things and deregulating the media and deregulating all the things so that you could lie on TV. And then here you go. There's Fox News right after the Reagan administration. It's baby steps, but Project 2025 has been going on since 1980. That's where I'm at with it, with Project 2025, and how this conservative movement has been pushing their agenda, their Christian agenda, on us, and a lot of the reasons why they've used religion and Christianity and their views on religion. It's kind of pushed me out of of the church, because I was in the Catholic Church, and it was I became a lot more spiritual and a lot more, I don't need to go to a building to talk to God. I can do that when I'm in the garden watering my plants. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a very different connection I have to nature and the universe and spirituality. And part of that was because I was so against this whole conservative thing from when I was a kid. Even from when I was a kid, because I was a kid in the 80s, and I saw it all happening because I saw the beginnings of white privilege in the way it was, where if you had money and you were white, there were things that that I couldn't do because I was a little bit darker than everybody else in my neighborhood. And not to say but that's part of why I empathize and I connect so much with the civil rights movement, is because I was the only brown face in my neighborhood. So I felt like that same chastised individual in a neighborhood that didn't want him there. So I very much empathize with the civil rights movement, and then, like, I grew up in the era of the Central Park Five. Mm-hmm. And if we watch, like, part of me can't even watch that first, because I guess, like, that movie that Ava DuVernay made is like, it's like two or three parts or whatever. But that first part, where they're questioning and they apprehend the kids from nowhere and just grab them and the whole thing, that I had PTSD watching that, because that was if you watch Miscellaneous Brown, my special, I have a joke about it where, the first time I got stopped by cops, I was basically, if you want to break it down, it was pretty bad. I was, searched by a young woman in her 20s when I was 15 years old. Kind of weird. It's a little, if you put it in those terms, it's kind of weird. Also kind of nice in my situation. No, but you know what I'm saying? Like it, and I've also so many times been stopped by cops in my neighborhood, just walking down the street.
And this was Chicago, right?
Yeah. This was Chicago in the 90s. So they talk about how, Chicago is so violent now, but it was the violence had hit its peak in the 90s. Well, I'm like, yeah, well, I grew up in the 90s. You had regulations of when and where to wear your sneakers, and like what color sneakers, your shoelaces on your sneakers. You could only have black, and if you had black shoes, you had to have black shoes, black laces, and if you had any other color laces, you had to take them off, because that was a flag. Mm-hmm. That was a way of showing your where you were from, or what who you represented, and it was a trip, because like I say it now all the time because I'm turning 50, but I really take pride in that, because there were kids who made it to the last page of the yearbook in my high school, where I can see the faces. I don't like to look in that part of the yearbook because it makes me feel sad, but at the same time, it was a reality when we were growing up. So these things that they talk about in Project 2025, eliminating public education, where I went to school, I was a public, like, I don't really consider my private education, my first elementary years, as my formative years, because that was a really, I mean, it was formative, but it was formative in a traumatic way, because it was just it was just a very weird time to grow up as being one of a handful of Filipinos in the neighborhood, in a Chicago neighborhood that did not want to be integrated even a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
tough. But in high school, when I got to go to school with everybody, Puerto Ricans, blacks, uh, Chinese, Korean, I got to see and meet all different types of cultures. It changed the game for me. And then college changed the game even more and opened the world up even more. So to be able, and I went to UIC, University of Illinois Chicago, and that's also a publicly funded university. So guess what? That goes too under Project 2025. So like my whole life, they're eliminating all they're trying to eliminate all the things that were given in the FDR. What's it called? The Great Deal, the Good Deal. What's it
The
called?
Isn't the Great Deal?
Is it the Great?
Or,
Is the Great Deal? I can't remember what the phrase is called, but that in the whole the Great Society, in building of Social Security and all the other things where it wasn't going to be, or there was going to be almost a social net for everybody, right? We call it what do they call it
the
now?
New Deal.
Socialism.
Sorry, it's the New Deal.
Thank
Because
you.
it's programs,
Thank
yes.
you. I appreciate that. I for some reason it escaped me, but yeah, everything that the New Deal brought out. Then you got the civil rights movement and all the different things that the 14th Amendment and all these. For me, part of it is Biden to fight against Project 2025. You almost need and the implementation of Project 25 with what the Supreme Court is already doing in its decisions.
Yeah.
We just got to reelect Biden and also pick your favorite local, pick your favorite local candidate and
Yeah.
latch on to them and feel their passion and their fire, because that's what's going to ignite you. And then almost as a secondary note, oh yeah, I should vote for Biden too. Click. Just
Yeah.
vote Democrat down the ticket, just so we can, because again, it will make, I think it will take the constitutional amendment to reaffirm Roe, or give patients' rights, some type of a patients' rights amendment that would, give abortion and a female woman and or whatever, however you want to classify it, somebody the rights to their body, and like let me just break it down easy. Let my daughters choose whatever they want to do, because that's how I move. I give my daughters the right to be able to do and choose what they want to do with their bodies.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you need a constitutional amendment almost at this point, because for it to be codified, if it's just a law, that's just something that this current Supreme Court was knocked down. Whereas if it's something, a constitutional amendment, that's a lot tougher. And I don't know. I feel like there are things about our system that are not good and need to be changed on a structural level, for sure. And I think I'm not alone in saying that, but and believing that about our system, and almost the apathy that most people feel about it. And we talk about it a lot on this podcast, because I think there are a lot of people out there who are really apathetic after watching the debate, after all the other things. Just the fact that we're choosing these two old guys again. It's hard, but at the same time, you're not picking between two lesser evils. You're choosing between good and evil.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
Because Project 2025, if Trump's elected, is the antithesis of our Constitution being based by the people for the people, and it'll be moving us back away from a more perfect union and back towards a less equal, less perfect union. That's
Mhm.
that's the bottom line of Project 2025.
Well, we
And
scale back to what life was like before 1776, right? I mean, that was the whole point of this great experiment known as the American democracy. And what did we have to escape from? The tyranny of a dictatorship, a king, a monarchy, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, let's just give all the power to one or a few, and everything will sort out. Like, no, then you further divide, and then revolutions happen, and we haven't
and
learned anything.
again, it's a title of the episode of one of our episodes. This is your king.
Yeah.
That guy. This is your king. For real. Y'all got me feeling like Killmonger talking about that shit.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. That's it. Just ridiculous. I don't even. Part of me like doesn't even want to mention, the T word anymore. But we'll say it like this. So my dad calls me yesterday, and he says, "You're a good writer. You should be writing uh, some jokes about how incoherent Trump is. He's incoherent. I cannot. He's so stupid. So you should write jokes and then post it to Facebook because all of your posts gets likes because you have got lots of followers. Where I don't have a lot of followers, so the things that I write doesn't get lots of likes. So you better write some more jokes about Trump being incoherent, but post it to Facebook. Post it to Facebook. So my dad's on Facebook, and that's his contribution to it to the political discourse is telling me to write more jokes and post them on Facebook about Trump.
There you go. And then as an added bonus, just make sure you share his exact post. Like, this is what my dad said again, and people are like,
Yeah.
oh, this is great. So you can say,
Well,
hey,
no,
look, Dad.
and he'll always put his comments right under my he'll comment on my shit all the time. It's no, because I it's almost illogical to me that there's even a choice. But we can talk about current events and the UK and France. Hopefully, not even hopefully, they it was a progressive wave.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe the world is waking up to the fact that there are fascists in our midst, and they want to take over this beautiful world that, well, not so beautiful, but less than perfect world, but we can make it more perfect if we all work together. And
Yeah.
I feel like people are starting to realize that even all around the world, because you look at the results of the elections in the United Kingdom, and then also in France, progressives are winning across the board. So I feel like that if that can happen here, you know, at least I hope it happens here in California so that we're safe. Also, shout out to Nick Schultz, and I hope everything is going all right with his family. We had to reschedule our interview for today, so this was supposed to be the Nick Schultz. I'm gonna meet my mayor episode, but instead we rescheduled because we were going to do this anyway. I wanted to talk to you about this anyway. So, and talk about this as far as Project 2025 and the conservative movement in general, and connect it all back to what's already happening right now, because that to me is the scariest part, is that the Supreme Court is already doing it. They're not doing anything. They're not following the norms. And if we wait for these people to follow the norms, then Project 2025 will be a reality.
Yeah.
So that's why we're doing this podcast. That's why we're here talking about this stuff. But also, I think that it's a challenge for everybody of like-minded people, not just Filipinos, not just, but if you're listening to this podcast, what are you guys doing about it? It's a call to action for everybody. It's about our way of life. If you want to be able to enjoy the Kendrick and Drake battle online and in freedom, no, really, because if Trump had his way, and if the Supreme Court right now, with the way that Trump's immunity had its way, a podcast like this isn't going to exist during a new Trump administration. Whether it be they figure out how they can subdue the algorithm on YouTube and control the algorithm, where they'll just shadow ban everything, because they've shadow banned stuff from us even right now, just because I list our whole thing, whether it's when it's uploaded to YouTube or whether it's our podcast. I list it as an over 18 podcast, because if you can't vote, we're not catering to kids here at this podcast. It's not a kids podcast. This is an over 18 adults podcast. All the views that we express are our views. I'm not trying to say anything. Even when, as a representative of Phil Amps for Biden, and even me as a representative, I'm speaking only personally and for what I believe in my opinions. And they're in no way representative of any organization that we affiliate ourselves with, because unless they are co-signing everything I say, which nobody's doing that right now.
No.
I'm still trying to sell tickets. Although, shout out to Ube World. We sold out Ube World. It was sold out to the rafters, had overflow into the other show, and like everything was great, and had a great time. And it was a fun Ube World show, and we're gonna have another one on the 28th. And I'm uploading this podcast today, Monday, because it's Miscellaneous Brown Monday, and I'm going to, this Saturday, the 13th. I'm going to be at Phil M Friendship Day, hosting and promoting my comedy special, Miscellaneous Brown, and this podcast, Miscellaneous and Brown. So I'll probably be going live on my Instagram. So follow me there on this thing right here, Eric Esteban Comedy. But also show up, say hi. If you're in San Diego, come say hi, and we can chat. We can talk. Maybe
now,
you
is
can
this
be a
your
guest.
third time, you said? How many times have you hosted
This is
the
the third
friendship?
year in a row. This is the third year in a row. I hosted both the Long Beach Filipino Festival and the Phil Am Friendship Day. I did not host its first year, but the second year onwards. So for the next 3 years. So both those festivals 3 years in a row. And then I've hosted Phil Fest, which is the Virginia Beach one. That one, I think I've done 2 different events there. And in both cases, the only other people who've done it is Rex, Joe, and Joey, and me.
Nice.
So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, in Virginia, it was great because I got to meet what's his name? Why am I from the Neptunes? Pharrell and
Hugo? No,
Chad Hugo. So
yeah.
I'm standing in line, and a shout out to Island Pacific was the restaurant. I remember the restaurant, but I don't remember Chad Hugo's name, for goodness sakes. No, but I'm standing in line, and then I look behind me, and Chad Hugo is standing there with his kid. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to fucking bother Chad Hugo when he's about to get some Aloha Pacific or Island Pacific, whatever. It was some Hawaiian barbecue. It's delicious. Shout out to whatever the name that I said right it was. But anyhow, so I'm standing in line, and Chad Hugo's in line, but I don't want to bother him. So, but then at the end, I'm like, man, I'm hosting this fucking event. You know, I'm hosting this event. I got to at least say hi. I mean, it's Chad Hugo. I'm asking him if you want to come on stage and say hi, but I
Yeah.
know he didn't
Yeah.
want to because he's private. He's a private dude.
Okay.
But he likes being a part of the Filipino community in Virginia because that's where he's from.
Okay.
And so I turn around and I'm like, uh, hey Chad, man, I just want to say thank you for all the music, man. I love the music. I'm a big, huge fan. I've been a huge fan since the beginning, bro. Since all of it. I've just been a big fan, and I just wanted to shout you out. And I'm hosting this event today, so I just wanted to say hi. And my name's Eric. He's like, bro, I know who you are. I watch your comedy online. I love your Ewok joke, and I was like,
Wow, that's awesome.
and then I think if you look on my Instagram, you'll see I got a picture with Chad Hugo.
Okay.
But yeah, that was a cool moment to know that Chad Hugo watched one of my comedy videos and thought I was funny.
That's pretty cool. That's
I
pretty cool.
almost asked him if he wanted to do a song. It's like, wait, we should work together. We should do a comedy song
There you go.
about
Yeah.
Filipinos in Virginia.
Yeah.
But
It's about time.
I didn't ask him that. Shame on me. But no, shout out to this hat. I can't remember the name of the company, but I got this hat the first time that I hosted Phil-Am Friendship Day. Or Phil-Am, because it was Phil-Am Friendship Day when I first hosted it. And now it's the Phil-Am Friendship Festival because it's like 2 football fields. It's grown exponentially because the San Diego Filipino community is awesome. It really is. It really is a great community. Shout out to Joanne Fields. She's the lady who's responsible for having me host there all 3 years. And it was because of her friends at Phil Fest. And Trisha and Eric over and they were connected with San Diego because they're like a West Coast they were West Coast folk that moved to Virginia and then maintain that connection. And so it's a really nice little family of people that have kind of taken care of me and have given me gigs all throughout the past 3, 4, 5 years. It's been awesome.
That's awesome. That's so great. And like you're a great host for that. I mean, I've heard amazing things about that community. Joanne does so many great things. Have they built a community center there yet? I know last time I talked to her, she had mentioned something about a community center in San Diego, a Filipino community center down
I
there.
don't think they have yet because I know that if they did, Mikey would want to put Ube World there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'd probably want to bring the Phil-Am Comedy Jam there. But I'm not. I'm really thinking about bringing the karaoke show back.
Okay.
That's a thing that's really. It's been like I'm gonna do a karaoke stand-up comedy show on the beach with the homies Butter. I should say Butter. I said it like a white dude. Butter. No, Butter. Because he spells it Butter, Buttah. So I got to pronounce it correctly. I didn't pronounce it properly. I should pronounce it correctly. Buttah, my friend Buttah, and Christina Payne. Shout out. She's Filipina, but also she's Black and Filipina, and so she does a lot of comedy with the Black comedians and all the African American comedians and that comedy circuit. So. And she's also connected with comedy with cannabis as well. So she's going to be on the Canacuya podcast. She already told her she's officially already a marijuana ate. So we're in the works for doing all that stuff, but also bringing the karaoke show back live. So if you're watching this and you're in Los Angeles or maybe Chicago or San Diego or who knows, maybe even Seattle or Toronto. I've been thinking about it. Maybe New York, but New York's expensive, so we'll see. New York may be the last, but I'm thinking about doing like a little karaoke comedy tour. We'll see what happens.
You can test it out here in Sacramento.
I would love to. Like I'd love to in October when I'm there for sure. We should do something. We should figure out a karaoke comedy show, and I could bring Mitch up, and I could bring Mikey up, and we could all hang out and we'd have a great time and it'd be a great show. And then I think, and then there's a few comedians in San Francisco that I'm sure wouldn't mind driving down to do a wonderful show. I won't shout them out now because they're not confirmed, but there's a few people who we can get on that lineup, and it'd be a great, really fun Filipino American comedy event with karaoke, which adds the appeal.
Count me in. Yeah. Well, not to perform, but to support and
no to perform, Chris. To perform, you're going to perform.
No, we want people there. So you don't want me to be singing or doing any performance. So, but yeah, that sounds that'd be awesome. I can see that doing really well up here because Rex was just here for in San Francisco. I was supposed to go to this, but I had a family thing to go to. But they were hosting a fundraiser with him, and he had done this on Saturday. And again, I was supposed to go, but I had a family thing. But it was, I want to do something like that here for our local. I don't know if I shared on here, but we've got one of the oldest Filipino community organizations in the country here. They were founded in the 1920s, and they're still around.
What's the name of the organization, Chris?
The Filipino Community of Sacramento and Vicinity, and they've been around since the 20s. They're working on building a community center. Speaking of community centers, and if they celebrate around their 100th anniversary and around next year or the year after, and the community center is built around the same time, I already hit up Ted Benito. Shout out to Ted Benito about bringing some of his friends up, have you host this, and just do this amazing, huge, just 100 years.
That's the Ninong of Hollywood right there. That Ted Benito's the Ninong of Hollywood. He literally is everybody's Ninong down here. He takes care of everybody. He's an awesome dude. He really is.
And he's just such a kind, amazing soul, talented, funny. Just he's great. So when I half jokingly invited him to come to the Filipino Fiesta of Sacramento in June to be our Grand Marshal. He said, Grand Marshal, why don't I just get you Apple to App or Tia or whatever? I was like, oh, could we bring them up for this other thing that might be happening? He's like, even better. So just putting it out there to the universe, you'll be a part of this. I want to make sure that this happens for our community. But that's pretty significant, just being one of the oldest Filipino organizations in the country, right? I mean, that says a lot amidst all this other stuff that's going on. It's so inspiring to be a Filipino in the community, and knowing that these organizations have stuck it out. They've been around since, so many horrible things in Northern California against our community, but they still have been able to last. Just to be around that, and a lot of these elders that have, were just kids when they were founded. And so, so when that comes along, definitely we'll piece that together. And you keep doing these shows and hosting them, then you'll just be the one that we're like, yeah, we got Eric Esteban to do it up here too. That's how good he is. So,
man, I'll tell you right now, those type of things. Like I've told this story many times, but when they acknowledged and apologized for the anti-miscegenation laws after Ted Benito produced Romance of Magda Rubio here in LA at the Ford Theater, that was a different type of accomplishment and acknowledgement as an actor, as an artist, as a person, to be able to witness that type of thing and be part of that and be part of history. Those are the things. I don't need an Oscar. I don't need an Emmy. I don't need those awards anymore. I just want to work, and like that type of work where you get to be a part of some type of centennial celebration of a Filipino organization that is seen from some of the first immigrants and first manongs to touch American soil to today. I mean, that's a lot of history and a lot of ups and downs. We'll say it like that, just to be as nice as we possibly can. But it was the Filipinos in Northern California that were included in the first criminalization of cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers use this marijuana to lure white women away from their husbands. Harry Aslinger in 1937 said it to Congress, mentioned Filipinos. A lot. It's funny. I've been watching a lot of different historical things about Harry Aslinger and that quote, and a lot of people leave out Filipinos when they mention that quote. They mention it completely. They will say blacks, Latinos, and entertainers, and I'll be like, "Yo, hey, excuse me." I mean, but there's so much history here that hasn't even been told yet, you
Yeah.
know. And part an organization like that, and to be able to work with an organization that maybe even answer some of the questions I have in my head, those are the things that I want to know about. The cannabis manongs, because I know there were some. That's where
Yeah.
the genetics came from, was Asia. So I know there were some. There had to be some, because if we were affiliated with that quote and Harry Aslinger, there had to be some. And I like to tell their stories and maybe be a part of a movie where I am a starring character in one of the movies. No, but for real, those are the type of stories that I want to tell. Those are the stories I've always wanted to tell. That's part of why even this podcast, I always want to relate it back to Filipino American culture. Even this Project 2025 will cut off immigration. So any hope of your secondary family that's still living in the Philippines ever coming to America and immigrating to America under Project 2025 and Trump, that's not going to happen. And in fact, anybody who's of questionable legal status in as far as their citizenship, like our friend Kyla,
Mm-hmm.
under a Trump administration and Project 2025, those type of folks would probably be under duress and probably be maybe under threat of deportation, which would be freaking crazy.
Horrible.
So these are things that we really have to think about as a Filipino voting population here in America when we're considering our vote. But not only that, you got to kind of read the ballot, look all the way up and down the line, and look at every candidate, because your local candidates are really the ones that are like your school board.
Mm-hmm.
If you have kids and you better know who's on your school board, because those are the people who are banning books. Those are the people who are limiting your child's education. And I just, the idea that we're living in a time where people are banning books because they're scared of someone's identity or how they identify or who they want to love or who they want to be with. I don't even understand it. I'll never understand it. It's part of the reason why organized religion has been something that I kind of stay away from. And because in a lot of ways, there are tenets to it that are obviously good, but then there are a lot of tenets to it that they justify a lot of hate in people. And I mean, for me, growing plants, I have regular seeds, which are regular cannabis seeds. They can grow, and they can be male,
Mm-hmm.
or they can be female. But guess what, guys? They can also be intersex, meaning both male and female in nature. It's just how it goes. Sometimes the genealogy works out to where you have some male genes and you have some female genes and you're male. And sometimes you have some male genes and some female genes and you're not a male, you're a female. It's just nature. It's not hard, guys. It's not. And that's part of what's so scary about Project 2025. It's that it's illogical. And it is, again, it's the antithesis of we the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just us, the rich folk, and we should be in control. And this has been a battle that's been waged over and over and over and over, and we're feeling the effects of how they won in the 80s. Reagan is just, and then George Bush was just a dumber version of Reagan, and then now we got Trump, who is the dumbest version and the monster. That's the monster that this whole movement has created. Now you just elect the rich guy, and he's not even a real rich guy. He's a guy who bankrupted casinos in the 90s. So he had daddy's money and he lost it. So I guess he is a real rich guy, but I don't know. You know, it really has. This is the culmination more than it is the beginning of. Like, I'm not afraid of Project 2025 because they've been doing this their whole time. They have been of a, you know, they move. The conservative movement has moved this way my whole life. I'm 50 years old now. You know, they've moved this way my whole life. They manipulate people who are manipulatable. And it's sad, but you know, the blatant hypocrisy of trying to eliminate pornography when you know every time the RNC goes to some city, the the search rates and all of it's all on Google, guys. You can look at it and see the freaks come out at night at the RNC. The freaks come out at night. It's for real. Come on. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, these are people that don't want to be honest with themselves, but they want to portray this perfect image of whoever they are. But who they are in real life is the exact opposite. They're hypocrites.
Yeah.
It's exactly what Donald Trump. I'm rich. I'm this. I'm that. No, you're not. You're a mushroom. Stormy told you who we are. Stormy told us who you are. You're a small dick dude with mommy and daddy issues, and you want to be spanked by a magazine with your picture on it. That pretty much says it all. And then, of course, the fact that you talk about you being attracted to your daughter. That shit is gross to me. I have 2 daughters, and as beautiful and lovely as they are, and I do believe that they are the 2 most beautiful women in the world. It's not in any, you know, way that I would think of them in a sexual way. It's because I'm their father and I love them. But in the way that this guy looks and sees, and even the pictures, that's your daughter. That is your daughter. And that is disgusting. I don't. This is your king. This is the dude you want to become king. This is the guy. The guy who's all up and down not only all up and down Project 2025, but his name is all up and down the Epstein list. Let's be real where this guy goes and what this guy likes. This guy is not like us, certified pedophile, certified lover boy, certified pedophile. Wop, 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 wop. For real.
So, speaking about crimes against nature, monsters, and experimentation and whatnot, and your T-shirt there, we've already talked our politics, our Filipino. What about pop culture? What's going on with your shirt? You're ready for some movie that's coming out, right? I mean, I think
it's the only movie worth
I've
going
heard
to
of it.
the theater to see. This is the only movie.
Yeah,
Deadpool and Wolverine is the only movie of the summer for me.
yeah, yeah.
But I don't really I don't even want to talk. I'm seeing all these people who have been released the first 40 minutes of it, and they're going to watch it and spoil it. I'm like, no, I'm not. I've been all up in The Boys. Have you been watching The Boys on Amazon Prime?
No,
I have been all up because part of the I love it so much because it wears its politics right there on the show, right here. It's all up on the chips are right here on the shoulders. It's wonderful. I love that show so much. It's such a parody. It's such a good parody of even superhero culture, but also just our meta culture in general. I love that show so much as far as pop culture goes. That's what I'm watching. Is The Boys. I'm loving that. But I am anticipating Deadpool and versus Wolverine. And you know what? We would be remiss as Filipino Americans if we were not to mention our new Sith Lord and Master, Chimere, Manny Jacinto, the pogiest and sexiest Jedi you'd ever seen in your life. And I told y'all he was my son. See, you see how sexy he is on that episode? I told y'all Manny Jacinto is my son. I'm gonna keep pushing that damn conspiracy theory that Manny Jacinto is my son only because I'm old enough to be his dad. And
Well, you added to that. You added to your Ernie Reyes story that like, well, the girl who thought you were had the baby, and
we've
he
already
ended up.
made this connection. Yes, you're
Yeah.
helping me build this story. This whole. Now, if either of those stories were actually true, we'd be in good shape. No, and so the Ernie Reyes story is true, but I would have not have been able to let's just say that I would not have been able to father a child during that interaction.
Okay. That's it.
Unless I would have been able to impregnate her through the mouth.
Okay.
I tried to say it as nice as possible, Chris. I'm trying not to dumb down our podcast and make it dirty and gross and crass. But I just want to be clarify and make sure. I don't want ever anybody to be what's the word? Who's that dude? That he was about to be the host of the Daily Show, and then he was outed for lying about stories about his prom dates and stuff. What skinny dude, Hassan Minhaj.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hassan Minhaj. Yeah.
He's from here.
I don't want people to. I want all my truths out there. Truth in comedy. Period. I'm gonna put it all out there. It's truth.
Yeah.
But how you want to wrap this up, man? So we talked a little bit about pop culture. What are you watching?
What am I watching? I'm not watching anything new. Oh no, you know what? I don't know what our obsession was, but my nephews, they're 4 and 7. They got really into like, they saw a clip of Planet of the Apes, like the new one, and so they wanted to see the first 3 before the new one they saw in theaters. And then now we're going back and watching the King Kong and Godzilla universe movies, and so they're just all about.
They had a new one. The new one's out. The Godzilla versus what's the name? New Empire or some shit.
New
What is
Empire,
it called?
yeah. King Kong.
I watched that on 4th of July.
Yeah, we did too. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, you don't have high expectations for the plot and all this stuff, but they did a good job of just like the fight scenes and the
only thing with those movies that you got to do is you got to make me care about the people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because if I don't care about the people, all I want to watch, I just can I fast forward to the monster parts? Because I don't want to watch this shit because I got to care about these people in order to watch these people. So they always do. That franchise has done a good job. Like I care about the little native indigenous girl that they took from. I watched her through the whole thing, and then they kept her. They kept the same actress. Which shout out to her. I don't know her name, but shout out to that. That was awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate the consistency. So we've been into that, and then the Apes movies are really good. I mean, like it just they're just all into that, and nothing else new. Like what we tend to binge watch, just old stuff. Like The Office is always on in my house. We've been rewatching Modern Family because we realized we never finished all 11 seasons because I didn't realize there was 11 freaking seasons. So we've been just having that on in our new house as we were putting stuff together. Like, oh, let's just have it on, and so that's been fun.
Did your kid go back to school?
No,
he's back
home
on campus.
Yeah, no, he's home until he's going to move into his new apartment. I want to say late August, and then he starts school in September. So he's home and fixing stuff up.
Oh, it's summertime. What am I thinking? I forgot that it's June. I've been spending so much time in my hot ass greenhouse that I'm starting to lose track of time.
Oh my God. How have you guys had a heat wave down there at all? Like how hot has it been down in LA? Because we've had some nuts temperatures here. And
I mean, not like nuts temperature. I'm like 90s, high 90s, mid 90s. Not. But I mean, like already hot where you can feel it. I don't like. Everybody talks about not liking the winter. I love winters in Los Angeles. Are wonderful. They're perfect. They're perfect. Like
to you, does it feel like
cold at night where you got to wear a hoodie, sweatshirt. Perfect.
Yeah, because it's still not a Chicago winter for you. It's still nice.
And I don't mind Chicago winters. Like I always go back home during the winter.
Yeah.
Mitch and Mikey, this past when I filmed my second special, they were were upset because they were like, "Motherfucker, this is cold. What the hell?" This because if you live in, because Mikey, he grew up in Virginia, and then moved to San Diego when he joined the military. But Mitch has spent his whole life here in Los Angeles, so he had never experienced Chicago winter. And yeah, he came home. He had a cold when he came home.
Yeah, I believe it. Oh man. Yeah, we were in Chicago one day last year when it was just like, what was it? It was just, I don't even remember. It was like a single digit. I'm like, what's a single digit temperature? And we went out with we were there with my son and like his choir and everything, right? Like, can we go back inside? Can we just DoorDash stuff? I was like, all right, that's fine. But yeah, we were like just frozen, stepping outside. Like, no, this isn't good for you guys to perform. So let's just
However, if we're going to be in the DNC in August, that shit is the worst. Chicago in the summertime in August, it's great because everybody's out and everybody's trying to feel the hot sun. But in a heat wave, when it's humid off the lake in Chicago in August, it's like you can cut the air like it's thick. It's like Georgia air. It's like it's thick. Like it's hard. It's very humid in Chicago. The climate is tough in Chicago in the summertime, but it's still great. I mean, it's still summer. You know, nothing a cold shower, a jump in the pool wouldn't fix. But it was definitely the humidity in Chicago is a struggle. It's harder to breathe for sure, and that's part of why my allergies are so much better here in California because we're living in the desert, basically. You know, revitalized desert. And land, you know, in the valley, the desert valley, which is wonderful. I love it. If I would, I'd give you guys a tour of my garden, but you can follow me on my Instagram because I've been posting a lot of pictures because the garden is now flourishing from all my research from about growing cannabis the past 1.5 to 2 years. Now all of the plants are flourishing because I'm applying all the science to all the plants, and I've officially become the older Filipino tito that gardens. You know, the one that, you know, when you come to his house, he hasn't changed out of his gardening clothes and he answers in his chinelas and he's like, "Oh, come on, I'll get you some dragon fruit. Come on, eat." Yeah, that guy. I'm that guy now. I'm officially that guy, and I'm happy about it. I'm ecstatic about it, actually. I feel like I can retire doing this shit and just gardening for the rest of my life. And then if I need to make a whole bunch of money just so I can have, you know, laborers lift big ass trees so I could build a forest of fruit trees in my backyard. Oh, yeah.
Dream. Yeah, my dad was like that towards the end of his life when he was gardening, and he'd always joke around like, "Hey, do you guys want these Filipino tomatoes?" Like, "What are Filipino tomatoes?" He's like, "No, just take them." Like, "What makes these Filipino tomatoes?" He's like, "Well, the gardener." I'm like, "Okay."
Hey, man. Hey, I am going to do that. I'm going to take your dad's. You're my writer, bro. I'm going to do that. I'm gonna be like, "Yo, these are Filipino tomatoes. What makes them Filipino? The grower."
The grower. There you go.
This is Filipino cannabis. This is Filipino American cannabis. What makes it Filipino American cannabis? The Canacuya. Excuse me.
These hands, the Filipino made these tomatoes.
No, but shout out, you know, on YouTube, there's a lot of Filipinos that they do, you know, they make gardening videos. Like I you know, because I watch gardening videos and I watch hip hop videos. That's been my watching on YouTube lately. And I watch stuff about Kendrick and Drake and Kendrick and, you know, stuff about the concert and all that stuff. But then I also watch how to grow cannabis, but also just how to grow, because I grow dragon fruit. I do grow cucumbers, cantaloupes, pineapples, all different types of herbs, asparagus, all different types of peppers. I have a strawberry patch. Bro, I've got a big ass peach tree with a whole bunch of peaches on it. I'm excited, man. I'm like really excited. So I think we should end on that because you can just grow with us here at Miscellaneous and Brown. This is episode 20 now. and we are, we're going to roll. Every Monday, you'll get a new episode. You can follow us here on the 1-2 Productions, where I upload this video unedited, and you can just watch it, comment, like, subscribe to the 1-2 Productions on YouTube, all one word. And you can go to our website now, uploaded and brand new, updated. You can buy merch. You can support our website, our podcast. You can listen to our podcast directly on our website at the 1-2 Productions. That's one. I can't spell for shit. ONETOOPRODUTIONS.com. 1-2productions.com. I spelled it right. I feel like I
No,
did.
you messed
And
up
if I
the.
didn't, you all can comment on how I can't spell out loud. I never could spell out loud. It was almost a thing in school that made me scared. I knew the letters and I knew the words and I knew how to spell. Like I could write it down real fast, but I hate spelling words out loud. Or maybe it's just because I can't spell. That might be it. Yeah. But I feel like I always look like, you remember that kid on ESPN when they used to air the spelling bee, and they gave him a word and he couldn't spell it, and then he made his eyes real big and then he fainted. That's how I feel every time somebody asks me to spell out loud.
All right. Well, I won't ask you to spell.
All right, but I will ask you to write a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and give us a 5-star rating on there, or subscribe and comment and like on YouTube. I am Eric Esteban.
Chris Mateo.
And you are listening and watching Miscellaneous and Brown. Stay tuned here every Monday for a new episode. And I am going to eventually interview the mayor of Burbank.
There we go.
One day. Shout out to you, Nick Schultz.